Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Matt Morris. You are tuning into Matt Morris TV. We are live right now on Rumble and on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, today is officially day number 36 of the ongoing shutdown of the federal government, the Democrat shutdown, Schumer's shutdown. The Democrats have manufactured this entire situation. This is now officially the longest shutdown of the federal government in all of recorded United States history. 249 years, almost 250 years. A little bit of a background. The previous record was 35 days. Today's the 36-day mark of this shutdown. The previous record, 35 days long, happened in December of 2018, going on into January of 2019, when the Democrats similarly shut down the government to stop President Trump during his first term from fulfilling and pursuing his America First agenda. So this is just pretty much a repeat episode. The exact same thing has happened. However, we are at a point today. We have some big breaking news developments. It seems like this repeat episode of this shutdown is going to take a little bit of a twist. And what I mean by that is today, it seems as if we have reason to believe that the Senate Republicans, the Senate GOP, seems as if they're actually going to be activating the nuclear option any day now. Now, the Senate Republicans, they have been incredibly hesitant and timid insofar as activating the nuclear option goes. It seems like a lot of them don't want to do it. President Trump is laying down the law. President Trump is saying, listen, Senate Republicans, it is time. The gloves need to come off. The kitty gloves need to come off. It is time to go nuclear. We are done letting the Senate Democrats hold this nation hostage. It's time to kind of man up a little bit, Senate Republicans. And so Trump has been going nuclear on the Senate Republicans to try to get them to go nuclear. And so we're going to talk about that today. Now, also, there's another story emerging. As of just 2 or 3 hours ago, Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Senate Democrats, the orchestrator of this entire manufactured Democrat shutdown, Schumer, he is pretty much begging at this point. He's begging President Trump. He's begging the Senate Republicans. He's saying, okay, don't do it. Don't go nuclear. We're ready to talk. Okay, please, let's open up the government. We're ready to talk. Come on, let's come back to the table. Now, the timing of that, the timing of Chuck Schumer's meltdown, which we are going to take a look at today, when we're going over all of the news, there's a lot to talk about today, folks. The timing of this is a little bit curious. Two things have happened. One, all of the elections took place last night. Mamdani is soon to be the mayor of New York. He won that election. There was an election in New Jersey, gubernatorial election, Virginia, gubernatorial election. One of the narratives here is that the reason why the Democrats, Chuck Schumer namely, have manufactured the government shutdown was to rally the progressive Democrat base, get them riled up, get them pissed off. We hate President Trump. Trump has shut down the government. Of course, this is ridiculous. But anyway, this was the objective of the Democrats, to get all the progressive Democrat voters riled up, get them out to go vote. Well, everybody voted yesterday. The elections are over. Okay? And so now that is a part of this as well. Maybe now Chuck Schumer was kind of orchestrating all of this to get his base pissed off, get him to go vote. But then also Chuck Schumer now, he's realizing, whoa, we didn't think that the nuclear option was on the table. Whoa, Chuck Schumer here. I didn't actually think that the Republicans had the balls to do this. President Trump seems like he's making some headway here. President Trump is, in fact, lighting a fire underneath the behinds, the butts of the Senate Republicans. He might actually be able to get them to go nuclear. Chuck Schumer does not want that. I almost said Schmuck Schumer. Schmuck Schumer does not want that. He's freaking out. And that's why he wants a deal. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to, Lord have mercy, there's a lot to talk about today. We're going to break down all of this. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Please do me a favor. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe. If you folks enjoy the daily news updates, really helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm, with Rumble. Thank you very much for being here. Without further delay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into this. Chuck Schumer posted this a couple hours ago, 4 hours ago, in fact, on X. Chuck Schumer, he said, news, Representative Jeffries and I, that's Hakeem Jeffries, House Minority Leader, and I are once again demanding that Donald Trump and the Republicans sit down with us, end their shutdown, and fix their healthcare crisis. Donald Trump, the Democrats are ready to meet you face to face, anytime, any place. Now, he says that. Curious, listen, I don't think you're really in the position here to be making demands, Chuck Schumer. I think this is more akin to begging. That's how I understand this. And by the way, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they did have a meeting with President Trump just 2 or 3 days into the shutdown. And also the night before the shutdown started off 36 days ago, Donald Trump said, come on into the Oval Office. Okay, let's try to de-escalate this situation. They walked into the Oval Office. They barged in, very rude, very impolite. They said, you are going to give us $1.5 trillion for subsidies for illegal aliens. Otherwise, we're going to blow up the government. And Donald Trump said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. This was 36 days ago, the night before the shutdown. And then a couple days after the shutdown took off, then they met again. The deal was the same. The ultimatum was the same. Give us $1.5 trillion or we are going to shut down the government. And then it's been silence. No negotiation since then. Well, now, like we said, things have changed. We are on the precipice, the cusp, excuse me, of going nuclear. Potentially, we're going to be talking about that today. We have some big developments. And then also the elections on the East Coast, and also New York or California took place yesterday. So the dynamic is changing. And now Chuck Schumer thinks he's in a position to make demands. In fact, he's doing more than just posting updates on X or on Twitter. He actually sent an official government letter to Donald Trump. Congress of the United States, signed off by Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. Co-sponsored letter to President Trump. Dear President Trump, we write to demand a bipartisan meeting of legislative leaders to end the GOP shutdown of the federal government and decisively address the Republican healthcare crisis. The Republican healthcare crisis, really? Really? The Republican shutdown of the federal government? Really? Democrats stand ready to meet with you face to face, anytime, any place. Thank you for your attention to this matter. You know what's getting pathetic is they are now copying Trump's rhetoric. You know how when Trump issues a statement on X or on Truth Social, he always says at the bottom, thank you for your attention to this matter. Now the Democrats are copying him because they can't come up with anything productive of their own. And so anyway, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, they think that they are in a position to make demands. Really, this is really a cloaked beg. They are begging. They're trying to mask this as a demand as if they are being strong. They're in the position of strength here. They're not. They're begging. They are begging because they are petrified that President Trump and the Republicans are actually going to go nuclear. Real quick, do you think, before we get into the show today, should President Trump and the Republicans go nuclear in the Senate? I think so. President Trump earlier this morning, he summoned every single one of the Senate Republicans over to the White House. He said, if you are a Senate Republican, come to the White House. We're having a breakfast. We're having a meeting this morning. And President Trump, he pretty much laid down the law. He told these Republicans what the deal is. Don't take my word for it. I'm going to let the man speak.
It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time. But when they can't do an extension, and John, I think they've done an extension every single time they've ever been asked forever. This is the first time they haven't done an extension. Extensions are supposed to be easy, but if they won't do an extension, they won't do any bill, even a simple bill.
Nothing.
And we should do our own bills. We should get out. We should do our own bills. We should open up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID. We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass, make our elections secure and safe, because California is a disaster.
Yeah.
Many of the states are disasters.
Yeah.
But can you imagine when they vote almost unanimously against voter ID? All we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. That's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, you'll never pass that. You'll never talk about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots make it automatically corrupt. If you have mail-in ballots, automatically it's correct. Even Jimmy Carter, they had the Carter Commission after he got out of office, and he had a group of very distinguished people, Democrats and Republicans, and they passed, they recommended things take place. It was a long time ago. And they said about mail-in ballots, if there is mail-in ballots, there will definitely be corruption because, they pass through too many hands. I mean, you go in to vote and they want you cut.
Now, folks, President Trump is totally, completely on point here. The Democrats, just a little bit of a recent American history lesson. The first two times any form of nuclear option was invoked in the Senate, the first two times was under the leadership of the Democrats during the Obama administration. It was the Obama-era Democrats, nuclear option instance 1, nuclear option instance 2. So they kind of kicked open the door here. They opened Pandora's box. They opened the can of worms. And since then, they have promised, this is what some people need to understand. I'm seeing amongst the right, amongst all of us Republicans over here, I see every so often, I don't know what you would call these people. There is a certain brand of Republican that says, well, if we go nuclear, if we get rid of the filibuster, what if that comes up to bite us in the ass someday? What if we nuke the filibuster and the Democrats 10 or 15 years from now, who knows, they're in control of the country, and they say, well, and then they take advantage of this new dynamic. It bites us in the butt. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot be more explicit here. This is what President Trump is talking about. The Democrats, they were the first ones to use it. They created it the first two times. And since then, they have promised, numerous senior ranking Democrats for the last 10 or 15 years, they have promised publicly time and time again that if they ever get in control of the levers of power in this country, the House, the Senate, the White House, if they ever have all three, they will go nuclear anyway. They are promising publicly the next time they have control of this nation, they will go nuclear. If we do not do it, they will. They've publicly made that oath, and they will go nuclear, not to save the country, but to further destroy it. It is our American patriotic obligation, as far as I'm concerned, to go nuclear now, get rid of this filibuster, and preemptively save the nation so thoroughly, preemptively, before they even have a chance to ruin it, that they won't ever be able to ruin it again. And what does this mean? Well, President Trump gives a couple examples. How does mandating nationwide voter ID laws sound? Sounds good to me. What about mandating nationwide proof of citizenship when registering to vote? That sounds good to me. What about federally purging all non-citizens from state-level voter rolls? We can do that. If we go nuclear, this is what we can do. That sounds good to me. How about ripping federal funding away from belligerent sanctuary cities and sanctuary states? That sounds good to me. So this is the type of stuff. Listen, if you're worried about the radically progressives getting in control of the country and going nuclear and then ruining the country again, if we go nuclear now, we can fix this country so thoroughly. We can pass so much America First legislation now, immediately, while we have control of the nation, that they won't even have a chance to destroy the country in the future ever again. We can completely and thoroughly fix this country. Now, President Trump goes on to say, talking more about the filibuster.
The biggest thing is the filibuster. We have to get the country going. We will pass legislation at levels you've never seen before, and it'll be impossible to beat us. By the way, if they do, they're going to do it anyway, and they are going to immediately do the filibuster. And when they do the filibuster, they're going to pack the court. They want at least five justices. Now I hear it's up to 5. I actually heard up to 7 and up to 9, okay? They want new judges. They want to pack the court, and they will do it in the first day, maybe the week. Maybe they'll slow it down because there's no reason to rush. But they'll do it first week. They'll vote on this. And I have friends over there that are Democrats. I'm close to a lot of people. And I asked them about that because some people say, well, maybe they won't do that. I mean, they destroyed the career of Manchin and Sinema, and they got them out. They were the only objectors. Nobody else is going to object. They're going to do it the first day. They're going to pack the court. They're going to make D.C. a state. and they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. So now they pick up 2 states. They pick up 4 senators, okay? You think you have problems? They're going to do all of the things. They're going to pick up electoral votes.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very, very bad situation. And it's done. It's done. As soon as they attack.
We need to understand that. We need to break this down. Ladies and gentlemen, if we do not go nuclear now, the Democrats will. If we do not go nuclear to permanently stop the Democrats, the radical progressives from seizing this country, as they have done in California through illicit means, as they have done in New York just yesterday through illicit means. This is the MO of the Democrats. Open up the border, flood the country with tens of millions of illegal aliens, impose racial gerrymandering to rob conservative Americans from their legislative representation. It's over. It's a demographic issue. There is a reason, there is an intentional strategy why they open up the border and flood the country with these tens of millions of illegal aliens. It's because it is a numbers game. It doesn't matter how conservative you are or how conservative I am if for every one of me, there's 10 immigrants from Somalia. That is the game plan of the Democrats. We can be as conservative as we want and we can value the Constitution to our heart's content, but if for every one of me or you, there's 10 illegal aliens from Somalia, it doesn't mean a damn thing. And this is what they want to do. They are promising, they have explicitly said, the next time they get in control of the country, not only are they opening up the border again, not only are they gerrymandering the living hell out of this country to rob you and me and us of our representation at federal level, but also they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. They're going to make Washington, D.C. a state. God knows what else. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. They want 5, 7, 9 more Supreme Court justices. Good luck properly interpreting and upholding the U.S. Constitution when you've got 10 Judge Boasbergs on the Supreme Court. Okay? How does that sound? It's not going to work out. Doesn't work. Good luck having a functioning republic when we've got another 4 or 6 or 8 far-left radically progressive senators in the Senate because they've brought in a bunch of new states. It is do or die. Like, this is the metaphor you need to have in your brain right now when we're talking about the nuclear option. I want you to imagine you've got a gun and somebody is looking at you. They're pointing a gun at your head. They're saying, I'm going to shoot you in the face unless you shoot me first. They are telling you they're going to kill you. They are telling you they're going to take your life. That is what the Democrats are doing to this republic right now. And still there are some people sitting on the sidelines saying, well, I think we need to have a conversation about whether or not we should defend ourselves. Well, I think we need to have a conversation about whether or not it's like, no, listen, if somebody is threatening you in this way, in this case, they are threatening the republic for which it stands. It is a self-defense issue. Like, literally, that is what this is. Okay. It is a fire first dynamic, because if you don't, the country is gone. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They have been perfectly clear about that. They have publicly given their word. They will go nuclear to destroy this country. That is what they want. Now, President Trump, after this public event that took place this morning, that we're just looking at some video clips from that, President Trump then had a private meeting with these Republican senators. Private, the media was not allowed. Okay, take a look at this.
But I thought we'd have a discussion after the press leaves about what last night represented and what we should do about it, and also about the shutdown.
When he says about last night, he's talking about Mamdani's election. That's what he's talking about, and the shutdown here.
And how that relates to last night. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans, and that was a big factor. And they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor. But I don't know about that, but I was honored that they said that. And I just want to thank everybody for being here.
So shortly after wrapping up this message here, okay, Donald Trump then segued. He took all of these Republican senators into a private meeting room, and he let them know. If you thought his messaging about the nuclear option was stern or serious here publicly with the media, we've got the video clips. Rumor has it was much more serious behind closed doors. Trump is laying down the law. Trump is saying, listen, Senate Republicans, it's do or die. This is a do or die moment. This is a moment where we have the chance to save the republic. And if we don't do it now, this is the conversation they had in the private meeting. If we don't do it now, might be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Whenever the Democrats get control of this country again, I might be long gone. Maybe President Trump, he might be gone at that point. But the Democrats, they have promised they will go nuclear, they will destroy the country. And then 15 years from now, everybody's going to be looking back and saying, man, we should have listened to President Trump. Man, we should have listened to President Trump. Breaking news, President Trump reportedly got tough with Senate Republicans behind closed doors this morning, saying the GOP will become a dead party if they don't nuke the filibuster. Is that true? Yeah. Senator Lindsey Graham reportedly told President Trump that budget reconciliation can be used to pass good legislation, to which President Trump said, "You and I both know that there's so much you can't do with reconciliation." DJT is also concerned that the shutdown has negatively impacted Republicans more than the Democrats and that it reflected in stronger Dem turnout in the elections. Listen to Trump GOP. He will not steer you wrong. 50 votes for all bills will work wonders. President Trump campaigned on this. He said, in fact, it was controversial because the far left media said, oh, he sounds like a dictator. President Trump said, I remember it was at the American Christian Summit on the campaign trail in 2024. President Trump said, if you vote for me, I will fix the country so well, we won't ever have problems again. And if you remember the far left media, they said, oh my God, he sounds like a fascist. He sounds like a dictator. Listen, this is what we're talking about. Go nuclear. If we do not fix the country right now permanently or close enough to permanently, the Democrats, they will go nuclear. They will. It's an inevitability. It's not if, it's when. And then the country's gone and then it's over. Now, luckily, after this private meeting here Trump had with these senators, it seems as if some of these Republican senators are actually coming around. It seems as if Trump is proving to be successful in convincing these senators to go nuclear. Senator Tommy Tuberville, he gives his thoughts after this private meeting.
Okay, if we need to bust it, let's bust it. Let's knock it down to 51 and let the Senate know that, listen, the power needs to go to the president and let him get something done. If we don't, we're going to lose our country. It's going to be over with.
Yes.
And so
yes.
He's got 3 years. He's the last Trump that we'll have in office. He's hard-nosed. He believes in this country. Let's give him some support. If he wants to blow up the filibuster, I'm all for it.
There you go. Listen, this is the degree to which I care about these Republican senators. They need to do what Trump tells them to do. Trump has the mandate. Trump won the swing states. Trump won the popular vote. Trump is carrying the Republican Party on his back. Trump said, all right, Republicans, get on my back. We're marching up this hill here. And here's my concern, honestly, if I can get a little bit tangential, I am scared. I'm deathly afraid. The second Trump is gone, the second his term is over 3 years from now, approximately, I am worried that the Republican Party slips back into how it was prior to Trump's emergence in 2016. I am concerned that the Republican Party becomes a bunch of cowardly, feckless, do-nothing losers, which is, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a young guy, that is how they operated for a very, very long time. The progressives were calling the shots. The progressives, prior to Trump's emergence in 2016, the progressives were running the show. And I'm not happy about that. It pisses me off. And I am worried that the second Trump is gone, we revert back to that dynamic. Now, this is why, back to the point of the nuclear option here, this is why it is so important that we let President Trump do what we elected him to do. Go nuclear, pass the America First legislation, push it forward, lock it in, give it a sense of permanence, okay? We need to do that. Now, luckily, it seems like that's happening. Trump is convincing some Republicans to go along with this. Breaking, Senator Ron Johnson says, similarly, it is time to nuke the filibuster. He said, quote, let's not be schmucks. Let's beat them to the punch so we can pass piece of legislation for the benefit of the American people. Okay, Trump is making some headway. Trump is making some progress here. We have Senator Josh Hawley took to Fox News this morning after the meeting. Take a look.
Senator, you did signal today that you would be open to the idea of doing what President Trump has asked, and that is doing away with the filibuster. Well, obviously, that would be advantageous right now to reopen the government. Any concerns at all about what that could look like in the future when Democrats have control of the Senate?
Well, I will just say this. Every day that the Democrats force the shutdown to go on, every day that they deny payment to our great federal law enforcement, every day that they hold hostage needy families, the president's arguments about the filibuster get a lot more attractive. And I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense, which is that the Senate needs to work. It needs to produce. Congress needs to produce. And if the Democrats are just going to, if this is going to be the new norm, Will, if they're just going to hold us hostage constantly for the next 3 years, we cannot allow that to happen. So I would just send the message to the Democrats out there, if you don't want that to happen, if you don't want the filibuster to be changed, then come to the table and start getting reasonable.
Couldn't you argue, Senator, they
plan,
do want that? In fact, they do want to do away with the filibuster, and they could be baiting Republicans into doing just that, doing away with the filibuster.
This is the dumbest argument ever. I'm sorry. They can do it anyway. Why would the Democrats need to bait or manipulate the Republicans into blowing up the filibuster when they can do it themselves the next time they are in control of the country? They don't need the Republicans to blow up the filibuster. They can do it. They were the first ones to do it, and they have promised they will do it again. There is this narrative that the Democrats are trying to manipulate the Republicans into doing it. To what end? They don't need us to do that.
Oh, they don't want it changed now, Will, but I think they do want the government shut down, and I think they'll do anything they can to derail the Trump presidency. We saw this in the first term. We saw them impeach him twice. We saw them investigate him endlessly. They can't do that right now, but they can keep the government closed. Yeah. They can try to impede his agenda, and they're doing that.
You know, this is what I will say here. Right now, the way the filibuster works, it necessitates 60 votes in the Senate to pass any piece of legislation effectively. The Republicans have 53. This necessitates bipartisan unity, intra-party unity to pass anything in the Senate. Okay, it really gridlocks the entire system. As far as I'm concerned, you call me a radical, you call me whatever you want at this point. In my opinion, working in a bipartisan way with the Democrats, it is evil. It is reprehensible. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want to work in a bipartisan way with the Democrats or the progressives. These people are evil. They have shown their true colors. They either want us, actual legitimate American citizens, one, dead, or two, replaced. And they will do nothing until that happens. If they successfully get one of us killed, like Charlie Kirk, they will celebrate and tap dance on his grave. We have seen that these people are evil. There is no making peace with evil. There is no bipartisan agreement with a party that is anti-American, that is actively working to destroy the republic, and that is morally evil. And if they're not killing us or celebrating our death, what are they doing? They're trying to open up the border and flood the country with tens of millions of illegal aliens to mathematically disenfranchise all of us. These people are evil. There is no shaking hands or making peace with evil. They want us dead or gone. That is their ultimate objective. That is very clear. Anything we can do, in this case, activating the nuclear option to supersede bipartisan unity with these people. I don't want unity with these people. I don't want bipartisan agreements with these people. I want to destroy their ideology and make sure that they never have any ounce of power in this country ever again. I don't want to give and a take with these people. I don't want to have backroom deals with these people. I want to disenfranchise them because they are evil. Because they want us gone. They want the country to become a modern day Brazil. They want our cities to become third world hellholes, third world favelas. I don't want anything from these people. Activate the nuclear option. In my opinion, it is evil to work with these evil people. That's the point that I'm at. Senator John Fetterman is one of the few Republicans that is proving actually not to be as evil. Senator John Fetterman earlier today, he called out his own party for freaking out about Trump wanting to nuke the filibuster. Fetterman, on the record earlier today, he said, "We all wanted to eliminate the entire filibuster. It was just a couple years ago." Thank you, Fetterman. You know, he's a Democrat. I don't agree with him on everything, but at least he has some semblance of a backbone, semblance of a spine here, that he's willing to stand up against this radical progressive hijacking of the Democrat Party. He's saying, listen, hold up, wait a minute, Democrats. Just a couple of years ago, all of you were publicly calling to nuke the filibuster. And now you're all saying, oh, you're all clutching your pearls and saying, oh my God, Trump is want to nuke the filibuster. Fetterman is saying, wait a minute, you guys were just talking about doing this. So thank you, Fetterman. He says, so I mean, they have a thing called the internet, you know. You could just look it up and confirm. We all wanted to wreck the filibuster, he said earlier this morning in an interview with Fox. Fetterman is right. And Fetterman is right. Yes, we all have seen the clips. We've all seen the quotes. Senior ranking Democrats, they've talked about nuking the filibuster. They have promised to nuke the filibuster. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. And that's where we're at now, folks. Beyond this meeting with the Senate Republicans this morning, in which President Trump was putting pressure on the Senate GOP to go nuclear, President Trump then hopped onto Air Force One in the afternoon and flew down to Miami, at which he spoke at the American Business Forum. And I've selected a couple clips here. President Trump just laid into the Democrats. I almost said Republicans. That's what he did this morning. President Trump laid into the Democrats in Miami at this American Business Summit. And I want to play some of the clips here. And a lot of this relates, once again, to the shutdown and the filibuster. Take a look.
If you want to see what congressional Democrats wish to do to America, just look at the result of yesterday's election in New York, where their party installed a communist as the mayor of the largest city in the nation.
Terrible.
Remember, I've said we will never have a socialist elected to any post in our country. I used to say that, and I was right. We skipped socialist and we put in a communist instead. That didn't work out too well. But as I've warned for many years, our opponents are hell-bent on turning America into a communist Cuba or socialist Venezuela, and you see what happened to those places. For generations, Miami has been a haven for those fleeing communist tyranny in South Africa. I mean, if you take a look at what's going on in parts of South Africa, look at South Africa, what's going on. Look at South America, what's going on. You know, I'm not going to, we have a G20 meeting in South Africa. South Africa shouldn't even be in the Gs anymore because what's happened there is bad. I'm not going. I told them I'm not going. I'm not going to represent our country there. It shouldn't be there. Take a look at what's happening in different parts of South America. Take a look at what's happening in different parts of the world.
It's not working
now
out.
The Democrats are so extreme that Miami will soon be the refuge for those fleeing communism in New York City. They flee. They flee. Where do you live? New York City, but I'm trying to leave because I don't want to live in a communist.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I need to address some of the rhetoric I see on the right going on right now. I'm seeing some people on the right, some Republicans, conservatives, that are saying, well, who cares if New York has a literal Ugandan, Islamic, communist, anti-white mayor? Who cares? Because he'll be mayor for 4 years now, a couple years now, and then after 4 years of his incompetent, insane communist leadership, all of the New Yorkers will wake up. They'll snap out of this delusion or this stupor, and then all of them will come and vote for Republicans next time, once they get a little bit of a taste of how terrible communism is. Folks, no, they won't. You need to remember, okay, we are not talking about appealing to actual Americans. The people that just voted for Mamdani are the people that Joe Biden let in the country illegally for the last 4 years. These are non-natives. These are not Americans. These are people that don't give a shit about the republic for which it stands. They don't care about the Constitution. These are third world communists that are coming in the country, okay? You're not ever going to convince these people to respect the Constitution. They don't care. There is not going to be some come to Jesus moment, so to speak, with these people. They're not going to have this moment of introspection. They're not going to wake up. You have to stop the problem now. This is why it is so important. This is a demographic issue. It's a Democrat issue and it's a demographic issue. If we import too many people from the third world, it invariably we will become the third world. It is a demographic issue. So I'm not one of these Republicans that is saying, well, let's just wait and see what happens. Folks, waiting and seeing what happens when these far left radicals, progressives, communists are running the country, that is what has gotten us in this position in the first place. Waiting and watching and seeing, we need to go on the offense. We need to be aggressive. We need to take back California. We need to take back Oregon. We need to take back Washington and Virginia and Maine and Vermont and New York, all of it. We need to stop just letting these people run amok in the country. Mass deportations, criminal prosecutions, federal indictments coming down. You want to call me a radical? Maybe I am. Take a look at this. We have something already, piece of legislation from 1954. It's called the Communist Control Act. It criminalizes membership for anybody that is a member of or has supported a communist action organization. I want Mamdani arrested now. He is a communist, at a minimum, a communist supporter. He's supporting communists as of 3 years ago on social media. He should be arrested. He should be denaturalized, and he should be deported. That is what I want. We need to stop giving these people an inch. We need to stop giving them a damn thing. Shut it down before it gets out of control. Indict him, arrest him, denaturalize him, deport him. We already have the legislation on the books. We already have the proof. It's all over social media. We already know. Turning a blind eye to this type of insane, anti-American, radically progressive, far-left communist behavior is what has gotten us in this mess in the first place. Shout out McCarthy. McCarthy was right about literally everything. A long time ago in the 60s, people said, oh, McCarthy, really? You think communists are everywhere in the government? You really think communists are in our university system? Yes. Yes, I do. McCarthy was right. He's the most vindicated man in all of American history, perhaps. President Trump went on to talk about the economic miracle that he has ushered in accordance with his America First agenda over the last couple months. Take a look at this.
Our opponents are offering an economic nightmare. We're delivering an economic miracle. We have delivered in 9 months. This is the biggest investment of funds in a country in history by many times. That's good. They want higher spending for government and illegal aliens. We want bigger paychecks for American workers and American families, and that's what we're delivering. You see that. They stand for crime and chaos and corruption. We stand for law and order and justice. Also, strong borders. Boy, do we have strong borders. They put America last. We put America first. We put America first. And as long as I'm in the White House, the United States is not going communist in any way, shape, or form. We'll stop it. We're going to stop it.
I pray to God he actually does something. You guys know I'm a diehard President Trump guy. If that's not obvious here, we need to stop with the platitudes. We need to stop with the Truth Social posts. We need to actually shut this down. This is not about optics anymore. This is not about rhetoric anymore. This is about do or die. If we do not shut this stuff down, if we do not crack down on various far left domestic terror groups like Antifa, if we do not deport every single one of the 50 million illegal aliens in the country, if we do not denaturalize and deport literal communists that are embedding themselves in our nation, we are going to lose the nation. We're not going to have a country much longer. Literally, we need to stop talking about it. We need to start doing things about it. And, you know, to Trump's credit here, he has done a lot. We're 1 year. Well, actually, we are less than 1 year in. The ball is getting going. Okay, so far we've had 2 million deportations. That's a big deal. In the last 10 months, the year's not even over. By the end of the year, we might have 2.3 or 2.4 million. We still have another 7,500 ICE officers to train and hire. We have the budget for that now in accordance with the big, beautiful bill. We're making progress. Things take time. I don't have any delusions that we can fix I don't have any delusions that we can fix the decades worth of damage done to this country by not just the Democrats and the progressives, but also, frankly, the neocons and the rhinos have done a lot of damage to this country for a very long time. I'm under no delusion or false pretense that Trump can fix all of this in 9 months. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. In fact, honestly, it's probably going to take more than 4 years, which is why it is so imperative. We go nuclear, we keep the House, we keep the Senate, we pass all of this America First legislation, we win the next presidential election in 2028. Who knows who that might be? JD Vance, I don't know. JD Vance is frankly growing on me. He's growing on me. About 12 months ago, I was like, okay, I don't know. We're going to see here. This guy kind of came out of nowhere. I remember in 2021 or 2022, JD Vance was an ever-Trumper. He was calling Trump a Nazi. I think things have since then been taking positive turns here. So I'm a little bit optimistic about the JD Vance situation. JD Vance is growing on me. I tweeted that out earlier today. I like him. So we're going to give this time. But listen, we have to keep control of the country, because if we don't, it is. Let's put it this way. It is much harder to take one step forward than it is to take, is this right? Yeah, it's much harder to take one step forward than it is to take 10 steps back. It's very easy to regress. We're trying to fix the country. It's very easy to make a mess. It is incredibly difficult to clean up the mess. That's the best way to put that right there. Now, President Trump went on to talk about some of the economic benefits or economic breakthroughs he has made over the last couple of years. We'll take a look.
Walmart just announced that the cost of their standard Thanksgiving meal, this is the greatest. They're greatest. They're wonderful. They come out every year with how much does a Thanksgiving Thanksgiving meal cost compared to last year, right? And it always goes up, up, up. It's 40%, 30% more. Is 25% lower than 1 year ago. Isn't that great? That's a big deal, Rima. That's a big deal. I don't know if they care about that in Saudi Arabia, but here it means a lot. We got the princess here from Saudi Arabia. She's got a lot of cash. Serious cash, and she's a great person. So she doesn't care about the price of a turkey is down a little bit. You know, she doesn't have to worry about it. Since March, the price of eggs is down 85%. Energy prices are down. Interest rates are down, despite the fact that we have a total nincompoop at the Federal Reserve. It was recommended by one of my real great people, who I'd never spoke to again. And the cost of the typical new mortgage is down by nearly $3,000 a year. Day by day, we're making America affordable.
Making America affordable. Now, I want to quickly address the inflation dynamic in this country. I think a lot of people understand this. Maybe some people don't. Under Joe Biden, under the Joe Biden presidency, if you can even call it a presidency, inflation was absolutely through the roof. Our dollar was being devalued at a disgustingly egregious rate. That said, we are always going to have some amount of inflation. There will always be 1-2% inflation. In fact, I think to some degree that's necessary. Inflation is necessary to some degree. The problem is when it's too much, is when it's 6, 7, 8, 9. God forbid it's more than that. So what President Trump has done, I don't want anybody to have any delusions here. We are never going to deflate. This is maybe the unfortunate reality. I have to say this. Things are never going to get cheaper. Really, long term, we were shaved off 25% off of the price of turkeys or whatever. Things are never really going to get cheaper across the country in a large scale. What we can do, what President Trump can do, is slow down the rate at which things get more expensive. Does that make sense? We can drop down inflation. We can slow the rate at which things get more expensive. But when it comes to long-term pricing, it's very, very hard to turn back the clock, maybe almost impossible holistically. So that really is the big conversation that needs to be had about inflation. It's never going to go away. The struggle is managing the rate of inflation under Joe Biden. It was absolutely through the roof. But, if we can make a joke here, everybody's great grandma would say, when I was a kid, I used to go back to the general store and I'd buy a candy bar for 5 cents. We are never going to have 5-cent candy bars at the general store ever again. This is the natural development of things in this country, economically speaking. In fact, when I was 18, I was in high school. I finished up high school. I used to go to McDonald's and I would get go through the drive-thru. I'd order a bacon McDouble for $1. A bacon McDouble for $1. They had something called the dollar menu. These days, they don't have a dollar menu. There's no dollar menu. It's never going to happen. Now they have a value menu. If I could go back in time and have a $1 bacon McDouble, man, that would be the greatest thing. But we're never going to deflate. It's never going to happen. Things will never get cheaper. The best we can ever expect from a president, frankly, is that they can control inflation. We can reduce the rate at which things get more expensive. And that is exactly what President Trump has cut I'd have to check the numbers. He's cut inflation by a factor of 3, by threefold, I believe. Inflation is under control. Absolutely, if you compare it to how bad it was under Biden. Inflation rates are great and healthy right now, meaning they're low. That's right. Now, Trump also at this economic summit earlier today went on to talk about his great purge of unnecessary federal government employees. Take a look at this.
And to curb inflation, we've slashed the size of government for the first time in years, and we're waging total war on waste, fraud, and abuse like we've never done before. Since January, 100,000 bureaucrats have left the federal payroll. Government spending is down 2.5% this quarter compared to 1 year ago. Think of that.
That is big.
And in stark contrast to last administration, 100% of all new jobs created in America under my administration have been created in the private sector. And to curb
100% of the jobs created, private sector. 100,000 federal government bureaucrats have been purged from the payroll. They've been laid off. Now, by the way, we all know this. In fact, the left-wing media they were upset about this. They said President Trump is strategically firing all of the Democrat federal employees that are trying to undermine and subvert his America First agenda. Yes. That's exactly what he's doing. And that's exactly what he should be doing. And that is exactly what he has done. If you are working in the federal government, if you are working in the Washington, D.C. swamp, if you're an agent of the deep state and you are actively trying to subvert or undermine or stall out President Trump's America First agenda, the agenda that we, the American people, all just got done voting for, you should be fired. You should lose your job. You should be fired. Yes. If you're trying to do everything you can to slow down President Trump and his goal to save and fix this country, you should be fired. And so I'm happy to say President Trump, the Trump administration, they have identified 100,000 members of the Washington, D.C. swamp, of the Washington, D.C. deep state. Get them out of there. The more of these people that we fire, the more efficient and effective President Trump's administration will become. Okay, President Trump is power spiking. President Trump's rate of effectiveness is growing exponentially. Every time he gets rid of one of these people, every time he wins a battle in the Supreme Court, he starts racking up all of these wins, legal wins, whatever type of win it might be. His administration becomes slightly more effective and efficient. So the rate at which Trump is able to accomplish whatever task he's trying to accomplish today is much higher than that rate was 10 or 11 months ago. Thank God. Good. That's what I voted for. We voted for the America First agenda. As far as I'm concerned, if you're a federal employee and you're not on board with that, you got to go. Got to get out of here. The American people have spoken. President Trump wrapped it up with this statement. Take a look.
But the communists, Marxists, socialists, and globalists had their chance, and they delivered nothing but disaster. And now let's see how a communist does in New York. We're going to see how that works out. And we'll help them. We'll help them. We want New York to be successful. We'll help them a little bit, maybe. For all of these failed and discredited, really discredited, if you think, ideologies of the past, their day is over, their grip is broken, and their time is absolutely done. The golden age of America has begun, and we are just getting started.
You folks ever talk to a communist? You know what they say? The communists, they say, well, real communism has never been tried. I know that every time communism has ever been tried all throughout human history for the last 150 years or so, I know it's always imploded and gone terribly. It's economic disaster. Millions of people die. People starve to death. It's terrible. But trust me, I'm a communist, and real communism has never been tried. I have a feeling that if we try it again, one more time, I think it's going to go well. These people are delusional. These people are nincompoops. These people are complete and total morons. These people really, they have a death wish. They are willing, in pursuit of their incompetent communist agenda, they are willing to put every single person's life at risk. They say, well, yeah, I know that 150 million people died already trying to push forward communism, but you know, I'm willing to risk another 150 million just to try it one more time. We can try it one more time. I'll risk another 150 million people. So these people cannot be given power. That's why I'm talking. Listen, the Communist Control Act of 1954, we were talking about that a minute ago. Listen, denaturalize this guy, arrest him, indict him, denaturalize and deport Mamdani. Get him out of the country. That's how I feel. That's my opinion. Now, folks, I want to double back real quick to the original point that we were making early on in today's show. Chuck Schumer right now is freaking out. He's begging. He's desperate. He's demanding. He's begging for a deal with President Trump, because right now Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, they are wetting their own pants. They are petrified, so to speak, that President Trump is actually going to be able to convince these Senate Republicans to go nuclear. The Senate Republicans, they're scared. Some of them don't want to do it. President Trump is laying down the law. It is time to go nuclear. Save the Republic. This is our one and only chance. If we don't do it now, it's over. The Republic is gone. And it seems like President Trump is actually, he's the deal maker in chief. He's the best deal maker alive. It seems like President Trump actually is going to be able to convince these Senate Republicans to go nuclear. Could be tomorrow. Could be the day after. Seems like he's going to get that done. Okay. And so Chuck Schumer is freaking out. He's melting down right now. And the reason why the Democrats do not want the Senate Republicans to go nuclear right now is because if we do go nuclear, and we should, if we do, without any problem or trouble from the Democrats, we will be able to immediately, overnight, snap our fingers, make it so. We can do it right now. We can pass national voter ID laws. We can pass nationwide proof of citizenship registration laws. When you register to vote, you got to prove you're a citizen. When you go to vote after registering, you got to show an ID. We can federally purge every single non-citizen on the state level voter rolls. We can make sure illegal aliens are never voting in this country ever again. Like I said, the Democrats are freaking out about that prospect. We can rip every single federal taxpayer dollar away from the sanctuary cities and away from the sanctuary states. We can do that. We could do that tomorrow. We could do all of this tomorrow if the Senate Republicans put together the resolve to make it happen. All of this could happen tomorrow. And by the way, this is what President Trump wants to happen tomorrow. I hope they do it. We could also do things like impose congressional term limits for members of the House and for senators. We could do that if we go nuclear. Are they going to do that? Frankly, probably not, but we could. The point is we could. We could permanently codify some of the benefits from the big, beautiful bill, like no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security. We could make those permanent staples. Right now, those benefits from the BBB, the OBBB, those are temporary. They only last for a couple of years. We could do all of these things. This is what President Trump wants. This is why President Trump is putting so much pressure on the Senate Republicans. And President Trump is a smart guy. The reason why President Trump is right now being so public about this nuclear option stuff, he's posting about it on Truth Social. He's live broadcasting some of these meetings with the Republicans. Trump wants public pressure. Trump is leveraging us. Trump wants us, the people, to put pressure on the Senate Republicans. Trump realizes maybe he can't win that battle alone. Maybe Trump, as one man, as mighty as he is, he's the president, maybe he can't do it alone, put enough pressure on these Republicans. So Trump is calling for reinforcements. He's calling on us. The reason why all of this is so public right now, nuclear option, you see it everywhere, is because Trump wants us to put pressure on these senators as well. So, hey, if you have a phone, everybody has a phone. Call your senator, send an email, write a letter. Trump is calling on us. That's why all of this is public, out in the open right now. Trump wants us. He wants us to help push these guys to go nuclear. Make a Facebook post about it. All of this. So that really is the big news of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Things are heating up. Things are really getting spicy, hour by hour, day by day, minute by minute. At this point, I want to take a look at some of the super chats. I want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. If you are new, please make sure to subscribe and to like. Really means a lot. It really does. It really, really does. I appreciate everybody being here. We've got one hell of a community. I want to take a look at some super chats here. We're going to go through all of these. Starting with Jesse Smith. He says, Demon rats forever lost any right to govern after committing treason by importing tens of millions of illegal immigrants, literally thousands of terrorists, should never be trusted with anything again. Once again, I agree. This is why we got to go nuclear and make sure that they can never do it again. I think everybody here, I think we're on the same page. Thank you very much, Jesse. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you for tuning in. I agree. Nomi says, hey, Matt, check out Leisha Miller. She's a good way to dive into the radical left worldview. I've never heard about that. I will look into that. I'll double back on that later this evening. Thank you. I will look into that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ghost Rider 33, he says, left, right, work team for NW, you know. This is, I'm trying to understand what you're saying here. Some people say that there is no difference. There is no difference at all between the left and the right. I'm not one of those guys. I disagree. I'm not saying the right is perfect in every regard always. I'm not one of those guys. I think there are problems within the Republican Party. But in the year 2025, if you are unironically saying that the left and the right are exactly the same in every single way, I have to disagree. Listen, we have seen the left. They are open border communists. The right, thank God they are not. That's one big difference. You could talk about all types of things, but at a minimum level, at least the right is trying to shut down the border and carry out deportations. At least at a minimum. I do not think they're exactly the same. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Steve Champagne says, thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. I think, and what you do is tune in and support. I appreciate that. I think a lot of broadcasters, political commentators, YouTubers, whatever, Rumblers, I think a lot of people like me, guys like me in my position, they tend to forget that without the supporters, without you guys, the viewers, without you, the community, there is no show. There is no me. Without you, the audience, there is no me. So I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky. I'm very appreciative. And I like to think that here, this community, we're making a difference. We're making some amount of a dent in the national dialogue, I think we're having a positive impact. So, and really it's because of you guys. So thank you for very much for tuning in. I appreciate that. I appreciate that support. Crap out 080 says, so how long do we stand by and watch them try to do the politically correct thing before the old American way of sorting things out takes the harshest course of action? And what triggers do you think will do it? Yeah, I totally think that we should not do that. I think we're not even close to that point. I think we are so far away from that point. Generally speaking, I'm satisfied with the success, with the progress Trump is making. Of course, he could go a little bit faster here or faster there. We are running the country. The way that this country works, there are invariably going to be snags and roadblocks and hurdles, and it's going to slow things down. President Trump is overcoming all of them. I think we are, like, I can't even imagine. I'm sorry, I don't want to call you out. In my mind, like a good old-fashioned American Revolution 2.0, we are so far away from that. We just swept the country. For the first time in decades, we are actually making substantial progress towards fixing the country. For the first time right now, we are actually making progress in fixing this country. The border is closed. Deportations are underway. We've had 2 million of these people leave the country in the last 10 months. We are leveraging reciprocal trade tariffs. We are righting the economic wrongs of the last couple decades. We are stamping out, hopefully soon, to some degree, the sanctuary cities. We are making progress. So I really think we are so far away from anything like that. I'm not there with you on that one. For the first time in decades, we are making progress. Thank you very much. Kathy says, what would be the reason Senate Republicans would not want to nuke the filibuster? If I had to guess a couple reasons, it might be the case that Senate Republicans are worried about getting primaried. Of course, any Senate Republican that votes to nuke the filibuster, the next time they are up for re-election, a couple years from now, whenever they're up for re-election, the Democrats are going to be campaigning on the fact that so-and-so senator voted to nuke the filibuster, and that's why we got to get rid of them. They are a threat to the republic, or, whatever. That's going to be the rhetoric. I think they're afraid of getting primaried. If the Senate if these Senate Republicans do what President Trump is demanding right now and they agree to nuke the filibuster, we need to rally the troops around them. We need to support these senators. If the senators do what we want, go nuclear, we need to support them. We need to give them credit. We need to make sure that they do not get primaried. We need to give them our support because they are to some degree putting their neck out on the line. They're risking their own spot in the Senate. So if they go through with it, I think we need to give them some credit because it is a big deal. It is a big deal. And it is potentially volatile for their position in the Senate. But listen, these senators, as we've said before, the fate of the republic is at stake right now. These senators, they need to be thinking bigger than their own job in the Senate. In fact, I'm going to go nuclear. I'm going nuclear myself. Even if you could guarantee that every single one of these Senate Republicans would be primaried out in the next 2, 3, 4, 6 years, they should still do it. Even if there was a guarantee that all of them would lose their job, they should still do it. That is the American sacrifice that must be made. The fate of the republic is at stake. If they do it, we have a couple years to fix the nation permanently, even if that means that they are gone, that they lose their job in the Senate. We have to fix the country. That is a sacrifice as a senator. That you want to talk about serving your country, you need to serve your country. Even if it means you lose your job, you got to go back to your old job out of the Senate. I really do genuinely believe that the fate of the republic is at stake right now. They have to do it. They need to do it. They have to do it. That's how I look at this. Now, Billy Jack Silverstack, he says, Matt, we need 80 million man march to get Congress to retract the filibuster. I'm ready. Are you? I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're not going to do that. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. In fact, I don't even think that's what we need. I think that's not what we need. I think President Trump, with some public support, I think we're going to be able to make that happen. Now, Kat Fisher says Vance and Rubio would make a strong ticket in 2028, competence over DEI, identity politics. I'll tell you what, I am much more optimistic right now about Vance than Rubio. A lot of people are floating the Rubio vice presidency. Maybe we can find someone else. I don't know. I'm just not really sold on that. I am more optimistic about Vance. But then when it comes to who his vice president should be, maybe we could talk about Hegseth. What about Hegseth? I would frankly, I would rather have Vice President Hegseth. I would rather have Vice President Tulsi Gabbard than Rubio. And I don't mean to be rude or hateful, no offense to Rubio, but maybe he just doesn't really have it. He doesn't have, you can't even put your finger on it. It's the egg. He doesn't have the X factor. I would be more inclined to have a Vice President Gabbard or Hegseth. But you know what? We are a couple years out from that. We don't even need to have those conversations yet. We're a couple years away. That is going to be a wrap for today's broadcast, though. Everybody, I want to say thank you very much for tuning in today. This was one action-packed broadcast. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If you are new, please make sure to like and to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. Thank you very much, folks. I do want to say something real quick. I've been trying to get the word out here. I have recently made a new second YouTube channel called Matt Morris Clips, where I post kind of my regular videos, but instead of being 8 or 9 or 10 minutes long, these are 1 or 2 or 3 minutes long. I've heard the feedback. Some people say, Matt, I love your live broadcasts. I love your medium length videos, 8, 9, 10 minutes long, but Matt, I want to see some shorter videos. So I've made a second YouTube channel for shorter videos, and I'm making videos on this channel every single day. So if you guys would do me a favor and go and support that channel, go subscribe every day. It's just bonus content. You're not getting anything less over here. You're just getting more over there. So it's just bonus news, bonus content. So everybody go drop a follow over there. I'm going to link that in the Rumble chat and the YouTube chat. That would mean a lot. I'm trying to get this new channel off the ground. So thank you very much. Beyond that, I'll see you folks tomorrow. Tomorrow, we might be talking about going nuclear. We might have gone nuclear tomorrow. Time will tell. Clock is ticking. Let's go. We'll see if President Trump is able to convince these guys to actually get off their butts and do it. Okay. And I think so. Everybody, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. Everybody, God bless. I'll see you folks tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. And once again, thank you very much.